It's August 1945. The world has been tearing itself apart for 6 long years. Europe is in ashes, but the war in the Pacific is burning hotter than ever. An invasion of Japan is on the horizon, a guaranteed bloodbath that military planners feared could cost over 1 million American casualties. And in the White House, a man who never wanted the job, a farmer's son from Missouri, now holds the power to unleash hell on Earth. A secret weapon, born in the New Mexico desert, is ready. It's a weapon that could end the war in a single, terrifying flash, but it comes with a moral price that is almost impossible to calculate. This is the story of that agonizing choice, the days that led to it, and the moment that blasted open the nuclear age. When Franklin D. Roosevelt died on April 12, 1945, Vice President Harry S. Truman was suddenly president. He had almost no warning. He famously told reporters, "I felt like the moon, the stars, and all the planets had fallen on me." And unlike the aristocratic FDR, Truman was a plain-spoken man of humble roots, a farmer, a World War I artillery captain, a failed small business owner. He wasn't supposed to be here. Most importantly, he'd been kept completely in the dark about America's most sensitive secret. It was only after taking the oath of office that his Secretary of War, Henry Stimson, pulled him aside. Less than 2 weeks into his presidency, Truman got the full report. It began. "Within 4 months, we shall in all probability have completed the most terrible weapon ever known in human history." The man from Missouri, who never asked for this power, was now the only one who could decide how to use it. To really get the pressure Truman was under, you have to understand the brutal reality of 1945. Germany was finished, but the war in the Pacific was a whole different kind of fight. American forces were island-hopping their way to the Japanese mainland, and every island was a new nightmare. The battles for Iwo Jima and Okinawa were horrifying previews of what a full-scale invasion would look like. Driven by a warrior code that viewed surrender as the ultimate dishonor, Japanese soldiers fought almost to the last man. Kamikaze pilots turned their own planes into guided missiles, smashing into American ships with horrifying results. The cost in American lives was staggering. But it was the sheer fanaticism of the Japanese defense that sent a chill down the spines of planners in Washington. The invasion plan, codenamed Operation Downfall, was set for November 1945. It was going to be the largest amphibious assault in history, dwarfing D-Day. General George Marshall and other military leaders gave Truman casualty estimates that were nothing short of catastrophic. Projections warned that an invasion could result in anywhere from 250,000 to over 1 million American casualties. That's killed and wounded. Japanese losses, both military and civilian, were expected to be in the millions. Across Japan, a massive civilian mobilization was underway with ordinary people, including women and children, being trained to fight the invaders with bamboo spears. The nation was digging in, preparing to fight to the death. All the while, conventional bombing was already leveling Japan's cities. A single firebombing raid on Tokyo in March 1945 killed an estimated 100,000 people, a death toll comparable to, or even greater than, the initial blast at Hiroshima. Still, Japan's military leaders wouldn't surrender. Every diplomatic signal, including their rejection of the Potsdam Declaration demanding unconditional surrender, made it clear. They would fight on. With no end to the slaughter in sight, a terrible new option was now on the table. While the war raged, a secret city had sprung up from the dust of Los Alamos, New Mexico. Here, under the watchful eye of physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer, some of the sharpest minds on the planet were in a race against the Nazis to unlock the power of the atom. The Manhattan Project was the most expensive, most secret venture of the entire war. On July 16, 1945, out in a desolate patch of desert, they tested their creation. The Trinity test unleashed a blast equal to 20,000 tons of TNT. It vaporized the steel tower holding the device and melted the desert sand into glass. The mushroom cloud climbed miles into the atmosphere. The scientists, watching from a safe distance, were stunned into silence. Oppenheimer later recalled a line from Hindu scripture, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The secret weapon wasn't a theory anymore. It was real. President Truman, who was in Germany meeting with Churchill and Stalin, got a coded message. The baby is born. The world's first atomic bomb was ready. The news from the Trinity test changed everything for President Truman. He was now facing the decision of a lifetime, caught between three immense pressures. First, you had the military argument. His top advisors, including Secretary of War Stimson and General Marshall, saw the bomb as just another weapon that should be used. An advisory group, the Interim Committee, recommended using it on Japan as soon as possible, without any warning. They worried that a demonstration on an empty island might fail, a dud, wasting one of only 2 bombs they had, or that if they warned Japan, the bomber might be shot down. The core argument was brutally simple. Using the bomb would end the war faster and save the lives of hundreds of thousands of American soldiers. For Truman, a former soldier who knew the horror of combat, this was a powerful, powerful argument. He wrote in his journal, "My object is to save as many American lives as possible, but I also have a human feeling for the women and children of Japan." Second, there was the politics. The wartime alliance with the Soviet Union was already cracking. Truman knew that if the war dragged on, the Soviets, who had promised to invade Japanese-held Manchuria in August, would demand a bigger role in post-war Japan and Asia. The atomic bomb wasn't just a weapon, it was a trump card in global diplomacy. Having it and showing you were willing to use it would give America enormous power to shape the post-war world and check Soviet ambition. At the Potsdam Conference, Truman casually told Stalin the U.S. had a new weapon of unusual destructive force. Stalin, who already knew about the bomb from his spies, barely reacted, but the message was sent. A new world order was being drawn. Finally, there was the crushing moral weight of it all. Truman was a religious man, and he understood exactly what he was considering. In his diary, he wrote that the target should be purely military, so that soldiers and sailors are the target, and not women and children. But he also knew any major city was filled with civilians. He wrote about the awful responsibility that had fallen on him. In the end, faced with Japan's absolute refusal to surrender and the ghastly projections for an invasion, he saw no other way out. While he publicly maintained he never doubted the decision, his private writings reveal a man wrestling with the moral weight of his choice. On August 6, 1945, the B-29 bomber Enola Gay cut through the sky over Japan. Its target, Hiroshima, a city that served as a key military and industrial center. At 8:15 in the morning, a single bomb, nicknamed Little Boy, was released. It detonated in a silent, blinding flash. In one single moment, the city was wiped from the earth. An estimated 80,000 people died instantly. Tens of thousands more would die from horrific injuries and radiation poisoning in the weeks and months that followed. And still, Tokyo was silent. No surrender. 3 days later, on August 9th, a second bomb, Fat Man, was dropped on the city of Nagasaki. More than 40,000 people were killed. On the very same day, the Soviet Union declared war on Japan, and its armies poured into Manchuria. The twin shocks, the atomic bombs and the Soviet invasion, were finally too much. On August 14th, Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's unconditional surrender over the radio. After 6 long, devastating years, World War II was over. In the immediate aftermath, the world felt overwhelming relief. For the soldiers, sailors, and Marines preparing for Operation Downfall, the bombs were a miracle, a reprieve from what they saw as certain death. An early poll showed 85% of Americans approved of Truman's decision. But as the smoke cleared and the world began to truly understand the horror of nuclear weapons, The debate began, and it hasn't stopped since. On one side, you have the argument that the bombings were a necessary evil, that they ultimately saved more lives than they took by preventing a far bloodier land invasion. Supporters point to Japan's fanatical refusal to surrender and argue that only a shock of this magnitude could have broken the military's grip and ended the war. But on the other side, critics argue the bombings were an unnecessary act of barbarism, a war crime targeting civilians. Some historians suggest that Japan was already on the verge of collapse from conventional bombing and naval blockades and would have surrendered soon anyway. Others believe the Soviet Union's entry into the war was the real final blow for Japan's leaders. And some argue that the main reason for the bombs wasn't to defeat Japan, but to send a chilling message to the Soviet Union. What isn't up for debate is that Truman's decision threw open the door to the nuclear age. For the next 50 years, the entire world lived under the shadow of the bomb, held in a fragile standoff called mutually assured destruction. Every president since Truman has had the same terrible power in their hands. So far, none have used it. Harry Truman never ran from his choice. He felt the weight of it, but he never apologized, saying that if he was in the same position again, he would do the same thing. His decision forces us to confront one of history's great, terrible questions. Is it right to commit a horrific act to stop a potentially even greater one? The story of Truman and the atomic bomb isn't just about one decision. It's about the terrifying place where technology, politics, and morality collide. It's a chilling reminder of what leadership can mean in the depths of war, and of the moment an ordinary man from Missouri had to make a choice that changed our world forever. If this story got you thinking, hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into the decisions that shaped our world. What do you think about Truman's decision? It's a tough one, so let us know your thoughts in the comments below.